Hey, folks, it is great to see you. My name is Jerry Herships. I'm the pastor of Applewood Valley United Methodist Church in Golden, Colorado, about 20 minutes outside of Denver. And we are in the middle of our annual conference right now. In fact, they're meeting right now as we speak, right down the road at St. Andrew, my old church. And I scooted home real quick so I could take one of these and then I'll scoot back over there, hence the sport coat attire. Anyway, without further ado, as they say, let's have some God talk. So, we're going to come to you today from 1 John chapter 4, verses 17 through 21. Now, this is different than the Gospel of John. This is 1 John. I think they would have been a little more creative, but so be it. Anyway, here's what it says. Love has been perfected among us in this, that we may have boldness on the day of judgment, because as he is, so are we in the world. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not reached perfection in love. We love because he first loved us. Those who say, I love God and hate their brother or sister are liars. For those who do not love a brother or sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen. The commandment we have from him is this: those who love God must love their brother and sister also. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. So there is a disease in our nation and in our world right now. And it's not new. Our passage today knew it, well, really, really well. There's a book called A Course in Miracles, and in it has these words: fear is an illusion. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Love in your mind produces love in your life. This is the meaning of heaven. Fear in your mind produces fear in your life. This is the meaning of hell. Now, I struggle with the fear is an illusion part. It seems like fear seems pretty real to me. But folks, I'm here to tell you there are a lot of people living a hell on earth right now. When we put more love in the world, we are literally creating heaven on earth as it is in heaven. Remember that? Love literally pushes out fear. For someone like myself, it's easier to not fear. As I mentioned last week, my life is easier as a result of being straight, white, able-bodied male. Not easy, but easier. Being straight and white, able-bodied and male has rarely, if ever, hurt me. But it is not a good time to be a woman. Your body, your choice? Not so much. It's scary, fearful even. It's not a good time to be a brown person, constantly scared for either yourself or your family or neighbors. The result? Fear. And on the 5th anniversary of George Floyd's death, just a couple weeks ago on May 25th, we know it still isn't a good time to be Black in this country. And fear raises its ugly head. The good news is that 1 John tells us perfect love casts out fear. And there was a lot of fear back when 1 John was written. They knew of what they spoke. 1 John was most likely written between 70 and 95 AD. It was most likely written in Ephesus by either the Apostle John or a member of that community. The Roman Empire was getting pretty good at this point at creating fear. The emperor's name was Domitian, and he ruled as an authoritative ruler who was known to emphasize emperor worship. He referred to himself as Lord and God and liked to be addressed as such. According to Wikipedia, his authoritarian style of ruling put him at sharp odds with the Senate, whose power he drastically reduced. Persecution of Christians was not happening throughout the entire empire, but there were pockets of oppression, especially where refusing to worship the emperor would lead to tension. It's believed that Domitian was the ruler who exiled John to Patmos, where he wrote Revelation. John was exiled to an island as part of a broader campaign to suppress dissidents, like early Christians that refused to worship the emperor. Above all else, he ruled through fear. To date, the only thing that has ever worked to combat fear has been love. Richard Rohr says, love is the energy that sustains the universe, moves us towards a future of resurrection. We do not even need to call it love or God or resurrection for its work to be done. It's not a far leap from having a fear in the mind to produce fear in our lives, and it doesn't have to be logical. Now, we see this all the time in politics from both sides. The side that wants us to vote anything down uses fear to motivate the no vote. Words like could or might or possibly are followed by horrible things that could happen. I even heard one speaker flat out say, I fear that if this passes, ... They didn't even try to hide their use of fear. Now, most of you know by now what a big fan I am of AA and 12-step programs. One daily meditation book used in AA quotes this famous phrase: fear knocked at the door, faith answered, and no one was there. These words remind us that when we put our faith in God, when we put our faith in love, fear vanishes. Again, love casting out fear. In another AA quote, we see the line, all these failings generate fear, a soul sickness in its own right. I love that phrase, a soul sickness. Folks, sometimes it feels like our nation and our world has a soul sickness. When we move away from God and love, it is a disease, or rather a dis-ease of our soul. Simply put, our souls are not right. But see, here's the rub. Fear sells. Fear works. That's why there are 1,000 angry, fearful radio talk show hosts. Fear's easy to do. Faith and love are harder. Faith and love are contact sports. In the end, God knew fear would be a roadblock for us loving God and loving each other. There's a reason that fear not is in the Bible so much. How many times is it in the Bible? Well, if we include fear not and do not fear and do not be afraid, I came up with a count of 113, not 365 as some people have said. But even with the lower count, the thinking is still important. For the Bible to address something more than 100 times, we have to take it seriously. Fun fact, in contrast, church is only mentioned by Jesus 3 times. Perfect love casts out fear because fear is a liar. It preys on our imagination, the worst possible outcome. Maybe that's why fear is an illusion. Maybe that was what that means. Fear of the unknown is another name for worry. I've tried in recent years to only be afraid of things that are happening now. To be fearful for the future is just useless. I mentioned before the coin that I used to carry in my pocket. It said, memento mori. It reminds us that we could leave this earth at any moment, just like that. We need not waste a single moment. I have another coin that I used to carry around in my pocket. It said, amor fati, love your fate, which in turn means essentially love your life. Now, this is hard to stomach, especially when things are going less than great. I get that. Love my fate when I've lost my job. Love my fate in my life when I've lost a loved one, when I'm sick. How is that even possible? Anderson Cooper, who lost his mother, Gloria Vanderbilt, a few years back, was visibly moved during an interview he had with Stephen Colbert and asked him to explain on what he had heard Colbert say in an earlier interview. Colbert once said in another interview, "What punishments of God are not a gift?" Anderson asked him, "Do you really believe that?" And Colbert went on to clarify that the quote originated with Tolkien. But he said, yes, yeah, he does believe that. He went on to model what it means to truly love your fate, to love your life. This is Colbert talking. He said, it's a gift to exist. And with existence comes suffering. There's no escaping that. I don't want it to happen. I want it not to have happened. But if you're grateful for your life, which I think is a positive thing to do, not everybody is. And I'm not always, but it's the most positive thing to do, then you have to be grateful for all of it. You can't pick and choose what you're grateful for. Now, this is especially impactful considering Colbert lost his father and two brothers in a plane crash when he was just 10 years old. Amor fati. And when we come at life from a place of love rather than a place of fear, everything changes. I've said it before, it is not our circumstance, but rather how we react to our circumstances that matters. I've seen people with everything that are miserable. And I've seen people with nothing but the clothes on their back laugh throughout the whole day. How do we cast out worry and fear and lead with love? A friend told me this week, how would we all be doing today if all we had was what we were thankful for yesterday? Gratitude is at the center of leading with love. I recently asked a lot of people where they find hope these days. And I'll be honest, one of the hardest things about this job is finding and sharing hope with all of you. And I'll be honest again, some days it's harder than others. Years ago, I first heard this phrase about love and fear. It said the opposite of love isn't hate, it's fear, which is really a paraphrase of today's message. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's fear. When we trace back our reasons for not acting in love, it usually traces back to fear of some kind in the end. When we fail to try things or to set goals, it's usually because we fear that we're going to fail, or we fear rejection, or we fear how we're going to look. The list is nearly endless. I posted once about hugging people, just hugging them. How we need to do it more. More than 100 people on Facebook agreed. We are starving for physical touch, but we often don't because we fear rejection or that it'll be misinterpreted. And so we let fear win over love. Love requires risk. But now it's 2025 and there's even more fear, even more isolation, even more loneliness than ever. When we shift our perspective to love, we are not only doing what Jesus commanded us to do when he told us to love each other, we are actively driving out fear. To quote the book title that Darcy, our director of program, is leading a class on, love wins. The words below have often been attributed to Nelson Mandela during his 1994 inauguration address. He didn't say them. And yet the words are accurate and true. The words were first written by Marianne Williamson, who wrote them in her 1992 book, A Return to Love. Here's what it says. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant or gorgeous or talented or fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve this world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And it's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. as we are liberated from our own fear. Fear is a cage. It's a prison that traps us and holds us hostage from what we are capable of doing and becoming. This is not God's plan. As the quote says, playing small does not serve the world. Being everything God calls us to be does. Now is the time. It is time to remember evil will always use fear. And the only thing that can beat it is love. The only thing that ever has beat it is love. So fear not. Love wins. Let it be so. Amen. So I know it's a scary time right now. I know there's people that are freaking out over so many things and for good reason. But we have to pull together now. We have to pull together as a nation, and I do believe that love is the glue. Love is the glue that will hold us together. I hope you have a fantastic week. I hope you find a way to let love win. I hope you put more love in the world. I think that's the way we're going to do it. And until then, be good to yourself and be good to others. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.